What I want to know is, with all these sources of entrepreneurship like Wall Street Journal, Forbes 8, even Shark Tank, how do you take action to do what you're calling a power shift?
What's up? I'm the Shark Damon John here. I am a panelist and investor on ABC Shark Tank. I'm the founder of a company called FUBU, and you're watching Behind the Brand with Brian Elliott.
I mean, we were just sitting back, you know, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. You know, tracking my roots, where I came from and where I'm going. But like I said,
Hey everyone, I'm Brian Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Today I'm here with the incomparable Damon John. Damon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Always good to see you, man.
Good seeing you as well.
So last time we met, it's been a few years, but I asked you how you got this job. You told me how you got this job. You told me about your Red Lobster days, selling stuff out of the back of a van.
Yeah.
And that was super inspirational.
That was?
It was to me, yeah. Yeah. I want to know about power shifts. You know, let's go back in the chronology just a little bit and review for those who didn't get a chance to look at Power Broke. And maybe take that as a springboard into now Power Shift. So to me, those early stories that you told me of selling stuff out of a van, wherever it was, t-shirts or CDs or, you know, whatever you could do to make ends meet, was sort of about Power Broke, wasn't it?
It was always a Power Broke because I had no money. So no matter what I was doing, it was literally tapping into my Slack resources and trying to be creative and out hustling other people. And I'm saying hustling in a good way, you know. It was always the Power Broke.
I didn't ask you, I remember, what did you want to be when you grew up? When you were a kid, let's take it back a little bit further in the chronology.
Yeah, I wanted to be a gazillionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was quite attainable as far as I was concerned when I was 5 and 10 and 15, and then reality started setting in. And I tell a story about when I was, you know, I wanted to save up some money and create a crash car business, meaning buying crash cars at $2,500, put $2,500 into parts, and then selling the car for $10,000 to $15,000. And I did my math on it, and once I would sell the first car, then I can afford two, and then after that, so on and so on and so on, and I'd be literally a millionaire in 2 years, and that was purely the map.
And this was like age 15?
I was about age 16, and I felt that also simultaneously, once I got up to 2, 3 cars, I can drive the cars myself, and I wouldn't have to pay for my own car, because once I have this car, then I would have another one because this one's being sold, and I was driving around with a big for sale sign on it, but at nighttime when I would go pick up girls, I'd take the for sale sign off. Yeah.
And where, for people who don't know where you're from,
I'm from Hollis, Queens. Well, a couple things settled in. Number one, I didn't like working with my hands. I just don't like it. You know, other people who are like, you know, they can pull cars apart. I'm really not good with that. Yeah. Number two is I didn't like the dealing with the people I had to get the parts from, because I wasn't dealing with the dealership. Right? And when you grow up in my neighborhood and many neighborhoods out there, you go to these garages and they have all kind of parts, and they're not the most savory characters.
Yeah, and you're a teenager, and so, you know, probably trying to take advantage of you.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, listen, they sell you a messed up transmission. You don't have a receipt for that, you know, and you don't want to, there's not the Better Business Bureau to complain to, and you don't want to get your ass kicked either if you try to tell them, you know, what you're doing. So, you know, the business went to nothing, and and that was at the time when I was about 18, and I did the whole, I'm gonna take 1 year off of school, from going to college, right? Because I'm smarter than all the other kids. So you compound those two things together, the failure of the business and lost all my money doing it, the fact that I didn't go to school, so I can't say that I had a really great career ahead of me, and the fact that I was doing nothing but maybe odd jobs like working at Red Lobster, and then all the kids that I was making fun of were coming back from college and starting good jobs, it started to settle in that maybe I wasn't as smart as I thought. And, you know, as a kid, it's like, you think you can only see but so far, right? I was like, well, it's too late for me to start college now. What are you talking about? You're 22 years old, right? But too late for me to start college. I started making excuses for myself. But
you know, back in the day, I could actually see how you might think that way, because that was the way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Back when you were in those college days, it was like that.
I'm not sure, because other people probably didn't use those excuses, but that definitely was the way that I was thinking about it. And most of my friends were dead or in jail because they sold drugs, and I was too cute to sell drugs, because I knew that if I go to jail, I'd probably, not do well.
Yeah.
So,
how about your home life? Did you have support there?
Always had a loving mother who taught me almost everything I know and was a mentor and a great woman. But, they say that they like to induct you in the Army between 18 to 20 because you're at the dumbest time of your life. You think you know everything and you absolutely know nothing. And so up to 18, 19, 20, didn't listen to my mother because she obviously was stupid, because she's my mother, like my kids don't listen to me. Didn't have any money, failed at all the businesses. All my friends who I came up with were dead or in jail. I didn't go to college. I'm at the lowest point of my life at that time. So started to settle in, and I started to settle at that point. Settle to go work as a waiter and say, well, what's the upside of it? Well, I'm never going to go to jail and or have to worry about the cops or people trying to kill me because I'm not doing anything illegal. However, what kind of raise am I going to get being a waiter? Other people, they kind of work in, some kind of system where hopefully they get some kind of raise over the years. They get benefits, they do 401k, they do whatever the case is, and then they buy a house at a certain age. The house then grows, then take the equity out of the house, sell it, move to Florida, get a cheaper house, live on from there, and their 401k and retirement fund pays them. I was in a dark place, but none of that was going to happen to me as far as I was concerned. I couldn't see past a year.
Yeah. So what did you do?
When I settled, well, in between that time, I started a little van business. Started to learn, it was like we'd go up and down the bus routes and we'd pick up people for $1 and drop them off. I started to learn a little bit about business there. But even then, I realized that I was working literally 20 hours a day, and even though I was grossing $300, but after paying for Department of Transportation tickets that I would get because I was taking an illegal route, my van was 20 years old, so high maintenance on the van, and paying for gas and paying for insurance. I literally was leaving with, at the end of the month, after working 20-hour days, literally 6 days a week, I probably would make at the end of the month $1,500.
Yeah. What did you learn about people during that time?
I learned that people will pay extra if you treat them better. I was on the van, I would, end of the night if it was really late. And the van, so Queens is what they call a two-fare zone, right? And the reason why the houses are cheaper there is because if you live in the city, and let's say an apartment is, and we're going to talk in today's terms, let's say an apartment is $1 million. Well, if you live in Queens, the apartment would be, or the house now, would be $400,000. The reason why is because you have to take one bus, maybe even two buses and connect, and then one train, and then you get to the city. That's two fares, right? So now, now you look at an hour and a half to 2 hours of travel that you can no longer work at that time, which means if you double that round trip, that's 4 hours, and you pay two fares. So that reduces the cost of how the houses are, because time and money compound, right? So I learned that when people got off this train, especially females, late at night, and I'm driving down this one boulevard and they're giving me $1, I learned that they would give me $2 or $3 if I just made a turn and take them to 2 or 3 blocks in. So I started to build customers who would wait for me at 12:05. I started to have a bus route like a bus, right? Because they knew that I was going to come pick them up.
I'm thinking that you're ahead of your time. You sort of invented Uber.
Yeah, it was pretty much Uber. But listen, it's a common thing in a lot of cities in New York, a lot of communities in New York, and believe it or not, my mother did that with a big Eldorado when I was, 6, 7 years old. So and I turned around and I looked at my life, later on in life, and I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but I did everything my mother did. I tried to sew clothes. I tried to be a van driver. I tried to be a waiter. She was a waitress. I tried to do everything. But you know, I learned about customer service. I learned about finding mentors, and I learned about there was a bigger world out there because I would speak to these people who were coming back from the city, and even though we lived in a lower class neighborhood, they were brilliant people. Some of them were accountants and attorneys and teachers and something like that, and I would learn from them, and I would get another bunch of mentors around me that I would learn from, and they would talk to me. And I learned also to add value to their life, you know. So those are a couple of things I learned, but I also learned that it doesn't matter how much you make, it's how much you save or how much you retain or how do you use the tool of money. Because even after working, you know, 20 hours a day for 5 or 6 days a week and coming home with $1,500, when I was literally making $300 a day grossing, that didn't mean anything. That didn't even mean I didn't have any money. I also didn't have any medical. I didn't have anything else. So I go back to Red Lobster. I say, I want to settle. Because I just don't want to take this job home with me. And nobody's going to wake me up in the middle of the night and ask me for another coleslaw. So I go home, I start working at Red Lobster, and I start to now be able to have the food at Red Lobster, eat some food, make some friends, and have a steady life, and make some money, and put money in a little whatever, and have insurance. And that's when I started to say, well, what am I going to do on the side? I want to just do something I love. I want to be able to have access to getting onto video sets and rappers and things like that. So I created this brand called FUBU as a hobby.
Let's flash forward just a little bit. I want to come back to FUBU. You talk in the book, I love that story of I See You. Mm-hmm. Talk about how important that is to you. Tell that story for us. And then, talk about people believing in other people and how that can kind of bolster you up when you need it.
Fast forward, FUBU starts to become really big, but it's right here on the mushroom. Mushroom Clouds here. It's here. Starting to do a lot, and there were a couple of brands out. There was Fat Farm and Walker-Wear, Cross Colors, of course, Carl Kanai, and 40 Acres and a Mule. And 40 Acres and a Mule was owned by Spike Lee. And obviously, this guy is a legend. He's one of the first young African-American directors who also showed some really edgy stuff, in the community and address race issues and various other things. And he was
Pioneer
by far. I get a card one day and I see it, and it says Spike Lee. And I said, and
just came in the mail?
He has a competing clothing line, yeah, and it comes in the mail in a letter. And it just says, Spike Lee says, I see you. I don't even recall if there was anything else. I just believe it said, I see you, congratulations, or something like that. And it was that acknowledgement that I finally had other people looking at me in a positive light that were over me, that were higher than me, and that have influenced me. And what are you talking about? You see me. You also have a competitive clothing line. I thought that, when I grew up in the world of business, we were supposed to be mean, ruthless people, crush them, you know what I mean? Like, how dare you? And especially, unfortunately in my community, they all say it's crabs in a barrel, and people of color don't help people of color. There couldn't be anything further from the truth. People who don't know each other necessarily, who are living in environments where there's a lack of resources, there's always going to be conflict, no matter what color you are, right? And to fast forward after that, I would get to know Spike pretty well.
So did you think, were you blown away by it when you got it?
I framed it. I was really blown away by it because he didn't know me, and he didn't have to take that time to handwrite something to me who could be perceived as a competitor, who could be perceived as a little kid or somebody who's not worth his time. And I would fast forward, and I would see him once in a while in passing, and then we'd kind of hang out, but I didn't have his phone number, and I never told him that story. And we'd go to the Oscars last year when he won that Oscar, and surprisingly enough, I walk up to him and I said, I see you. And he was like, I said, I don't think you remember. You wrote me that. And he must have known or remembered in some way, because maybe he has sent that to other people. But it was me being able to show my appreciation and show, because I was a fan of his from afar. I was way bigger of a fan after I got that letter, period. Right? But it just shows that it's circular, right? It comes back one way or another. And it's such a small deed. I'm a go, of course, and take it to one other small deed that was done. You know, when I was growing up, there was a show called The Odd Couple. Remember The Odd Couple?
Oh, yeah.
Oscar and Felix. So for those who don't know, Felix is this really uptight, like...
Which one are you?
Oh, I'm Oscar all day. Yeah, I left my underwear over there in the corner. But when I was on the show, Felix was super uptight. He was like, I guess, what do you call, compulsive? Like, he was like...
He was buttoned up, man.
Buttoned up and tight. And
organized.
Yeah, and his name, the real actor name is Tony Randall. I'm a messenger, I'm a foot messenger. I'm the kind of, you know, and I was about 15 years old, 14 years old. I went to a high school where you can go work in the city on a co-op program. You get a credit for working. So you have two weeks at school, 2 weeks working. I was working as a messenger for a venture capital firm. Think about that, me being a messenger of the venture capital firm now, knowing what I did. It was called First Boston. And we were in the messengers in the mailroom. Not the ones with good enough to have a bike. The ones with the loud headphones and the package, you know, looking at everybody in the elevator and you know, sounding all loud and singing.
The whole image, yeah.
All right. I'm walking down the street, I'm singing a song, whatever, and there goes Tony Randall. Felix is walking down the block, and I stopped and I said, "Oh my God, you're Felix!" And then he just stopped and looked at me and said, "Yes, I am." And he shook my hand and said, "What's your name?" I said, Damon. And he said, "Really, really, really good to meet you." This is a street with 1,000 people. This is like 6th Avenue.
Yeah.
And he would change who I would later become, my perception and understanding of what a public person should be. You know, when I see people and everybody asks, why do I take a picture with them or listen to a pitch and this and that, it's because there was nobody in the entire city of Manhattan but me and Felix for 20 seconds. And my entire life, I would remember that 20 seconds.
What's the phrase? People will forget what you did, but they'll never forget the way you make them feel.
Yeah. But it also made me feel, because then I would grow up in Hollis, Queens, where there was a massive amount of celebrities. Everybody came from Hollis, Queens. Every rapper, like LL Cool J, Run DMC, Salt and Pepper, Ja Rule, Tribe Called Quest, all kind of people. I mean, Young MC. I mean, all in this little square area. And I would see some of these artists as I was growing up. I would see them ignore and or treat their fans really bad. And it would later on pay off, I guess, because that's why I guess I'm called the People Shark. And the bottom line of what I'm trying to say is that it takes you only 10 seconds to make somebody feel special for the rest of their lives.
Do you get a bad rap for being a shark now? Do people think that you're vicious, cutthroat, out for yourself, narcissist?
No, you know, I don't have a problem. I don't get a bad rap there, but I do get a bad rap in the fact that people say, well, you're rich, you have no problems. You know, they say, oh, because you got it, you should do this for me. You know, you know, somebody gave you a shot, and why don't you give me a shot? And how dare you? You turn your back on people.
So the entitled attitude.
Yeah, you know, I get a lot of that, and I don't think what I get is any different than what whoever gets who's at a job or in the community doing a little better. Yeah. They get from other people.
Well, you're also, compared to all the other sharks, you're different, unique.
Yeah.
You're the youngest.
I'm the youngest of the other sharks, plus I'm the one of color. I'm the one that came up really tied close to pop culture, you know.
Let's talk about the less obvious age issue, because, you know, ageism is a thing, whether that's someone who's older and feel like they've aged out.
Yeah.
Or, you don't have any experience, you're only, middle-aged dude.
Sure. I think age is, it all depends on the inventory that you have or is being requested of you from an age standpoint.
Well, let me put it in the context of you choosing deals, right? Because you've been very vocal about saying, I don't choose products or brand, you know, I choose people.
Right.
Am I going to want to answer the phone from this person who's going to be annoying the rest of her life, his life?
100%.
I'm out, yeah. So does age factor into it, like experience and all that?
Not at all. I've done great deals with a little kid named Mose Bowes when he was 12 years old, and now I think he's 18, and of course he's taller than me, which that's not a big accomplishment, but you know, he's taller than me. I've done deals with seniors who have taken the fundamentals of what they've learned in life, and they felt that they worked on everybody else's dreams. It's now time to apply to their dreams. So age has nothing to do. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, if I'm talking to a Mose Bowes and, you know, he feels that he needs to, you know, set up a different distribution chain in a different city and stuff like that, I'm going to say, you know, are you sure you're aware of that city, the issues and whatever?
Or if he says he's going to be a life coach.
Yeah, exactly. So if he says he want to be a life coach, I may have different issues, but if you're going to be a life coach and you're 12 to a 10-year-old, maybe. You know, I take people I don't try to put people in a box because I've been put in a box. We all have been put in a box, and we don't like it when it happens to us. I like to hear what they plan on doing and how they're going to go about that execution.
Let's stay on that putting someone in a box theme. You've been wronged before?
Wronged in what sense?
I don't know. Some will call it like a backstab, or, you know, taken advantage of, or...
You mean before I woke up today? Are you talking about in between this morning when I woke up or now? Because I just was on a call where somebody stabbed me in the back.
I am. So let's talk about how to deal with that, because you will find out that I produced this show very selfishly because I'm still trying to figure a lot of stuff out. But I feel like, you know, I'm in the trenches, like I'm out.
But I love it. That's why I do my books too. I love it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. How do you deal with that? Like, does that stay with you? Is that something that's it's easy for you to shed, like water off a duck's back? Or is that like, that person's a marked man from now until the end of time? And you know the Peter Thiel story? Well, the short version of the story is that he happened to be gay, but had not come out yet. And a big tabloid magazine outed him. And he was pissed. I mean, totally understand it.
Rightfully so.
And you know, I wouldn't say they ruined his life, but they had no right to do that. 10 years goes by, and Thiel's just sort of waiting, biding his time. Meanwhile, he's a billionaire. And the Hulk Hogan case comes around, where Hulk, you know, the sex tape gets released, and this tabloid magazine goes to town on Hulk, and Hulk tries to sue him. Well, Hulk doesn't have the money. And who comes to his rescue? Peter Thiel. Takes care of all of his legal expenses anonymously. Hogan wins the legal battle, puts that big publisher in the UK out of business, bankrupt.
Nice.
How do you feel about that whole sort of revenge, holding a grudge? I mean, how do you deal with that?
You know, complicated question that I've never been asked before. You know, my father left me when I was 10 years old, and I would never see or speak to him ever again. And he recently is somewhere around, not in my life, but through some different parties. And when he left, he really made his 3 sisters and 2 brothers also stop talking to me, and they all had 1, 2, or 3 kids.
So he went out of his way to say, don't talk.
And a husband and a wife, a husband or a wife. So I lost 30 members of my family.
He cut you right out of his life.
Knew where I was the entire time. My phone number never changed from the age, because that's when we had obviously houses. My phone number never changed from 10 to 25 years old. Lived very close to me, could have always reached out to me, but it never did. I could have tried to get back to him. I could have tried to get back at him. I wouldn't even tell you who his name is right now.
How did that make you feel while it was happening?
Well, you know, like, listen, when parents are getting divorced, you know, the kids are often tools, or the kids are just witnessing something that they can't necessarily comprehend. At 10 years old, I was witnessing something that I could comprehend a little bit, And maybe, you know, a father or a mother will tell kids something to spare their feelings. Maybe they won't tell them at all. Maybe they are a person of bad character. And I remember, you know, feeling like I was a little bit I had a little bit of hatred towards my mother, and I'd find the things that weren't necessarily true that my father was saying or doing.
Yeah, you felt manipulated maybe?
About 2 years of that, and I remember picking up the phone and saying, "Don't ever call me again." So, did I ask for it? Yeah. But you're talking about a 12-year-old boy, right? But then to make sure the other family didn't talk to me by saying Damon and his mother don't want anything to do with you, then the true character came out of, okay, who was the wrong person here? Right. Who was showing their characteristics? Did I ever think about getting back at him? Not at all, because, you know, we come from that side of the family comes from a very particular way of, like, more the Indian heritage of grow up, become an engineer, mathematics person, coder, various other things. And I would have went on to higher education and I would have just done that. Nothing wrong with that, but I never would have challenged myself to be an entrepreneur. And I became somebody who wanted to protect my mother and bring money into the family because it was just me, her and I, you know? And so to answer your question about revenge, not at all. You know, if you were somebody who didn't see value in me, how can I make you see value in me, right? Now, that's that side. You can't choose who your blood is. On the flip side, friends and people, I generally cut off who do wrong because I always say to myself, if you're not a good enough friend to yourself, you're never going to be a good friend to me. And when they do things that I think are not cool, but I look at them and I go, wait a minute, they treat their own selves worse than they treat me. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
I can't get back to that person because that person, maybe for 20 years, maybe that person's mother told them for 20 years that money's evil and the only way that you can ever make money is be evil. Maybe they locked them in the closet all their lives and said, you know, don't come outside unless you come outside and you are the most aggressive, nastiest person in the world. I didn't raise them. That's not my problem. If you're not good enough friend to yourself or we don't agree morally, that's not my problem. Now, where will I get somebody back? I'll only get somebody back when I feel that they have gone out of their way to screw me and that they've hurt other people around, and I don't go and harbor and hold the grudge. I just always say there's a really good saying. You can't get somebody back if you're not in business with them. And I'm talking about when we're in business. So you stay in business. When you tell them, you screwed me. And then the final one is the teal one. It's, you screwed me or somebody around, and I'm not looking for an opportunity to screw you. But I'm not looking for an opportunity to protect somebody else, because when he helped Hulk Hogan, he probably saved so many more families. And I'm not saying I agreed with Hulk Hogan's thing with the racism or some other stuff happened. Not my business. Don't even know the story. Can't say that I can listen to the magazine. But he saved other people from being hurt by somebody who had foul intentions.
Karma came around and bit you, didn't it? Because at the time when FUBU was at its height, and people were asking you to break the box and do something custom, you thought you were too cool for school or too good, you decided not to do it. That came back and bit you, didn't it?
Yeah, so the story basically goes, when we were at our height, we would tell retailers, listen, you got to take a whole box of jeans, and the jeans were 12, and they would put whatever, 232, 234, 36, up to 42. There were some people who, let's say you sold in Mexico, and they're not making people too big in Mexico, and people wanted 32s and 34s. They would say, I need 32 and 34s, and we were like, and just take the 32s and 34s out, and, or make more 32s and 34s. No, take the whole box.
Hardline.
Take the whole box, or don't take the brand at all.
We're FUBU, we're hot.
We are on fire. So what happens after? So a retailer is not going to not pay their bill. They're not going to not bring in the inventory because they have to have FUBU, because if they don't have it, they're going to die.
Yeah.
All right. They keep buying all these boxes. Now they turn around in a year and they have 300 pairs of 40s and 42s. What are they going to do? They're going to put them in the rack in the corner for $12.
75% off, whatever.
75%. They got to get rid of them. The kid now comes in. Now he's not looking. You never walk in and look at the same exact jean and go, $32, $44, $4, $40. You start to see $4. You start to see a pile of these things on the table. I mean, and it's like, wait a minute. How come there's so many there? Am I the only idiot buying it?
There goes your brand.
There goes your brand.
Yeah. So what's the power shift? What did you learn from that? Aside from,
I got a reminder in the power shifts of one thing, that anything that you won't do, somebody else will do. That's how I got here, right? You don't want to come down to the video set. You don't want to respect me. You don't want to do this and that. Well, Damon will do it. That's how I got here. I also learned the golden rule that it never goes away. The customer is always right. Period. End of story. I'm looking at the customer as being the person going into the store. Well, if the store doesn't carry it, how's the person ever going to see it? That was the customer too. You have various levels of customers. Whoever is doing a transaction with you is a customer. So I learned those things. I learned various other things about what I was doing. But listen, I was 34 years old. I was still learning a life. I mean, I'm still learning today. So,
how often do you change your mind? Like you decide I'm doing this, and then no, I'm not doing that.
I don't change it as much anymore. Not because I got smarter, because I make decisions slower. My decision now is like going into the store and I see a hot pair of boots that I want, and I know they're $2,000, but I know I have 2,000 pair of boots at home and I haven't worn 1,900 of them. I go home. If I can't stop thinking about those boots, then I go back. And money gives you the liberty to make decisions. A lot of money gives you the liberty to make decisions, and sometimes it's a lot of bad decisions. So, also, when I have done a lot of deals or new things in my life, I said, "Oh, it's not working this way? Here's another $10,000. Try that. Let's hire a marketing manager. Let's hire this. Let's hire that." And I used to do it fast and throw money at it. Instead, now my decision will be, well, why isn't it working? Well, let's hire another marketing manager. No. Let's get more inventory. Well, what's we're going to do with the inventory that's currently there? Let's advertise on LinkedIn instead of Instagram. All right, here's $4. To know that everything has been exhausted. And then, at the same time, check my personal inventory. Every single thing that I have been successful at had a couple of things. Number one, I loved it. I loved the idea, loved the concept, loved everything about it. I would have done it for free. Number two, I did my homework on it. And I kept doing my homework on it. Like what they call Steve Jobs, a tinkerer, or... That was number two. And number three, I had really good people around on it. Strategic partners, advisors, mentors, employees, whoever. And every time I failed, I realized one thing was missing. I didn't love it. And because I didn't love it, I'm not going to spend 10 minutes doing homework on it because it's annoying as shit. It's boring to me. I don't care. And I'm going to look for a scapegoat by finding this person that magically can come in with a magic wand and fix it. Well, if they were so goddamn great, they would have had their own business. All goes back to loving it. So passion. Passion is a key component. Passion is a key component. You just need to know which one you want to make money off of, or you think you can make money off of it, because there's a lot of things out there that, you may have a passion for, but maybe, you can't spread yourself too thin. Well, so my perception of you is that you probably are spread too thin. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, are you a capacity? Like, you got a lot of deals going. You're shooting this TV show, which is heading into what, season 12? Yeah.
I gotta imagine that you're in high demand speaking a lot.
Sure.
All over the place.
Yes. So am I at capacity? Yeah, absolutely. And I look every day how to cut certain things out and reduce certain things.
Yeah. What are you cutting right now? I hope you're not saying fishing days.
No. What am I cutting right now? Well, I'm cutting deals that I do externally outside of the tank. Right?
Why is that?
Well, because the tank is a very, very rare and special thing in a way, right? Because we're really hands-on with those people. Yeah. But I don't know who's walking through the door tomorrow. And if I film, good season, I have 15 deals on the table. And by the way, those deals can't be like I just said. I like it, I'll go home and think about it. No, you just offered that person money and they're airing in a month. Yeah. And this person, and that's why, it's all hands on deck for my staff, because this deal and this deal are two different deals. This person needs to understand social media and reduce the costs on their goods. And they're doing great in retail, but they're not doing good on social media. This person is killing it on social media, but they're in a bad contract with a distributor and various other things, right? And or they need more financing, and or they need this. So it's really that, and so that takes up a lot. And the reason why I have to cut the other deals out is because I have an obligation to these people who allowed me to share part of their dream to give them the best shot. And Shark Tank's not going to be around necessarily forever, and this is a limited time. So as I check my inventory of my time in my life, I have to cut my inventory up to my family and God and my health first. Then I have to look at my responsibilities and obligations that I have, whether to Shark Tank or whether to partners, because I knew what I was signing up for. So if I act like I don't know what I'm signing up for, then you can never trust me on anything else. And then I have to look at my current businesses that I already had and or my time. I can always cut my time back 20% from speaking on the road or various other things because of Shark Tank taking up more time, or my health or my family or a charitable organization. So that's how I break up my time, and because my time purely is my inventory. It's the only thing I'll never get back. Yeah.
And if Shark Tank goes away someday, you could always reverse that strategy and go back to taking or considering outside opportunities.
Sure, I'm all for, listen, people offer me, they want to do a fund with me, the Daymond John Luxury Fund, and they say we can raise $500 million, $1 billion right now because people know that you have the inside track on a lot of businesses out there. I don't want to take anybody else's money right now, because the last thing I want to do is take in $1 billion and they're like, why are you on Shark Tank or dealing with a, some kind of little gadget? I'm like, well, that was that's been my obligation. They'd be like, well, you didn't tell us that when I gave you $1 billion, right? So I mean, everything comes with a price, and the price is usually time.
Let's talk about time a little bit with regards to your health scare. How did that change your POV? Maybe for people who don't know what happened, tell us the story.
Yeah, so the story is that I was out with a friend of mine, his name was Bernie Newman, and a really great manager. He had managed Muhammad Ali and Siegfried and Roy, and he had said to me, with all the money you have in your life, why don't you ever get yourself an executive physical? And I said, well, it's nice, but what the hell is that?
Yeah. I mean, you were probably at that point in your life, your age.
I was 47, 46, whatever, and I was like, I get a physical every year. Doctor grabs something on me, tells me to call, spanks me on my ass, and sends me on about my way. He's like, no, go get an executive physical. I said, whatever it is. I go and find out what an executive physical is. It's 2 days on running through it like a hamster, running through everything, and they're checking everything on you.
What's it cost?
An executive physical, it can cost anywhere from $6,000 to $20,000. I know the Mayo Clinic does one. I put my whole family through them. It's about time for me to get another one. I am told that some insurance companies pay for seniors for executive physicals, so maybe there's some ways, but it's costly, but obviously I have the resources to take care of that, right? So I go there and they're checking these veins. What is it, carotid? All right, they're checking my carotid veins. They said, let me check your carotid veins and make sure they're not clogged, because if they're clogged, it's a higher risk of stroke. They say to me, okay, give you back your report, but got a little nodule on your thyroid, a little something, I'd go check it out. Go to the doctor. He goes and says, I'm going to take a biopsy. There's a 90% chance that we're going to find out exactly what it is. There's a 10% chance we can't tell what it is. My luck, they don't know what it is. meaning benign or meaning, you know, cancer. So I go to the doctor.
So were you worried?
I wasn't that worried because there's a little nodule on my thyroid, it's this big.
Yeah. You've been in pretty good health otherwise.
Pretty good health otherwise. I go to the other doctor. He says, all right, here's your challenge. You got a thing on your thyroid? Listen, let me tell you something. If you were 80 or 90, I would say, don't worry about it because, you know, the thyroid is the slowest growing cancer.
It'll outlive you.
Yeah, but if you're 50, you know, you have a 50% chance of taking out a perfectly good thyroid, a 50% chance of taking out something that could be detrimental to you. So I go, surgery. The 1 hour of taking out this small thing became 3.5 hours of taking out a golf ball size of stage 2 cancer in my body.
Right in your neck.
Right inside here, way inside here. And it potentially was moving to my lymph nodes, which would then travel to my brain because it was in my body for so long. And, you know, I had to rethink life at that time, and I can't say that I rethought life in the regards to saying, yeah, Rocky, I'm gonna beat this shit. No, I rethought life in a whole different way. You know, I rethought life in 2 different ways. Damon, you know, you've been doing this all your life. It's tiring being an entrepreneur sometimes. Everybody calls you with their problems.
Sometimes. Every day's a street fight.
You can't tell anybody your problems, though, because you walk on water. You're the boss. You can't tell your employees that if you don't get this next account, you have to close the division. Don't worry. Listen, I got money, but if you're a smart person, if you have a division and it's not costing you $1 and making $2, if it's costing you $1 and you're only bringing back 50 cents, doesn't mean you're broke. Because a lot of people watch this now and say, well, you have the money. No. The reason I have the money is being disciplined. So you can't tell your best employees, we don't get this other account, I got to close this division, because they'll leave. You have a financial strain on your family, your wife, and your situation, and your target. You know, the reason why Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain ended up, you know, in certain situations, mental health is a big challenge in the entrepreneurship community. There are so many people that have a lot at risk. And it gets tiring sometimes, even in my position, really, really tiring.
I feel you on that.
So the answer to the question was, you know, when I looked at myself potentially having cancer, you know, because when they had to study it and the time of studying it, I didn't realize if it was already traveled. I had 2 things to think about. It was a good run. Let's get to drinking and partying and fishing. Fuck it, we're going. And I want to know when I'm going, and it's on top, because I don't want to be pooping on myself at 90 years old, you know, walking around and people, you know, I got to call people. So let me go out on top, baby. I can't wait to party. Or it's, you know, I'm going to fight this thing no matter what. And you know what? It may be a brutal fight. I may have to go to chemo or whatever else I need to do, and I'm going to be suffering, and there still won't be any guarantee that it'll help me. But I got to do it. And I had to weigh in between there, what are my downsides and what are my upsides? Well, what is my downside? I got a 3-year-old baby girl at home. I got a new wife. No mother should have to bury their children. I got 2 other girls, older. It's the downside, right? What's the upside? I got a great ex-wife. I got 2 older children who already have had a good life with dad, right? I got a great current wife, and my daughter's 3. She'll never remember me when she gets to 20. And my mother, I got to see my mother, and she would be proud of me. I didn't take myself out, and you know what? I don't want, you know, to see my mother die because I love her so much. That's a stupid way of thinking about the things, but it is what it is, right? You know, the old saying,
taking inventory.
Taking all inventory. And, you know, listen, no parent should ever have to bury their child, but there's an old saying, I hope you live to 100, and me, 100, but minus a day. So I'll never know that good people like you passed away. And maybe that was selfish of me, but I decided to take on the battle of fighting it. And after I did, I forgot I was waiting for the results to come back, because I was already on the road to winning. I forgot I even had it damn near, because I shifted my mind to just not consider it. It's not going to happen.
So is that kind of the overarching theme of the book, the power shift? It's a shift of the mind, it's a shift of the heart. It's to move forward, push through.
It's the shift of a 10-year-old realizing that by the age of 15, 17, or 20, his father never going to be in his life. It's the shift of a person who's realizing that they made the wrong decision in life by not going to college, hanging out with the wrong people, and bullshitting themselves, that they need to shift themselves into another area. It's the shift of a kid who came up with a couple of hats and said, I'm going to create a global brand, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, so now I got to work 10 times harder than that. It's the shift of another kid who somebody said, listen, you got hit by lightning one time when you bit the apple, you got the golden goose, FUBU's dead and you're never going to do it again. So I come out with 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, other brands. It's the shift of somebody who's dyslexic writing 4 and 5 books to let other entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs know that it's not as glamorous as other people think. This is the reality, but if I can share with you my life, that you're going to get to where you want to be. And all of a sudden, because of the first one that I wrote, because I get shifted onto a major platform where I get to empower other people and show them that, the carpet has no, that carpet, when you stand on Shark Tank, it couldn't care less about your color, gender, race, creed. It is about money. It is about discipline. It is about your desire and drive. And if you're ready to wake up before everybody else. So it's all these shifts, but people only think that the power shift is when I talk to you right here. The power shift in every one of those situations, all the way from me being a 10-year-old losing, to losing an entire family, to me being somebody who was threatened with cancer, started with my mind first. Then it started with the relationships that I have curated and started to put out there, and I banked on those. Then negotiations happened. And then the real value of it came way after negotiation, because once I did a deal with myself, you, or anybody else, there were other opportunities that we grew off of, right? So your reputation is like you driving in the city, and your reputation is skyscrapers. Everybody's going to see it, right? But a lot of people think negotiations start when you sit with me at the table, and I've seen over 1,000 pitches on Shark Tank and over 5,000 pitches outside of Shark Tank, and I all see some of the same common denominators on why people kill themselves when they walk into a room, or why people strive and they're so strong that even after they don't get a deal, I go, I can't wait to find that person again to help them or root for them. Basically, I see you.
I mean, we were just sitting back, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. Tracking my roots, where I came from and where I'm going. But like I say, man, always said it. It's not about the destination. It's all about the journey. Ain't nothing changed but the weather. The dangling carrot that hang from the rear view. Your dreams in the past ain't nowhere near.